This is a very interesting world, sort of, that I think maybe a lot of sellers pass up on or don't get the chance to really dive deep into this side of things, even though feel like it's super important for them to nail. So I'm excited to talk to you, JD, about the importance of your return process and how to maximize it for profit, but also make sure that you're not letting anything slip through the cracks here. So very excited to have you on, JD Sass.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Glad to be here, man.
Yep. I want to start with an intro of yourself, kind of give us an idea of who we're talking to, give us a reason to listen to you, really. Give us, your experience in this world and a lot of your qualifications.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's JD Sass. I'm one of the founders, uh, currently CEO of Axiom Return Solutions. We are specifically a reverse logistics company built for primarily Amazon sellers. We service D2C as well. Your Shopify, Walmart, Target, Best Buy, things like that. We are heavily concentrated in the Amazon space. We help sellers recover revenue from customer returns. And that means a lot more than just let's throw your stuff on a pallet and liquidate it, right? We've been doing this for 3 years now, so somewhat new. But again, the only thing that we've done has been returns management. So
Mm.
I am the physical provider. I receive inventory, inspect, grade. I also have a tech where I display a whole bunch of data to the partners that we get to work with. We've worked with a couple hundred resellers, wholesalers, agencies, accelerators, brand direct, private label on Amazon as their return address. So in Amazon, stranded, automated fulfillable, unfulfillable, we receive inventory, as I mentioned. Everything is manifested or serialized with us. So we're scanning everything on inbound, inspecting, grading. Let's reintegrate the new back to a primary sales channel. Can we refurb or repack to
Hmm.
then reintegrate? What secondary channels are available? We file claims on fraudulent customer returns and damaged or missing pieces from removals is a big deal. Forward downstream to another facility, a manifested donation or disposal, depending on how the company's structured and dispositions. But all that we've done, it's been hard to not, like, chase butterflies or shiny keys is just returns, right? That's
Right.
the only thing, and in the Amazon world, there's a whole bunch, that can be done to improve an existing company's setup. There are not a lot of service providers like us. There might be some who offer, like, consignment options or will just resell it for you, but we're interested in giving data back to decision makers to drive those decision-making processes on the front end. That's not something that I'm seeing done at scale by a third party provider outside of maybe operations who are heavily invested internally, larger companies who have the resources and are capable of doing this themselves. Um, can we reduce returns from happening? Right? Can we do that at a listing across the supply chain? So that's a little intro. I could go on,
Yeah.
but we live in the returns world. It's the only thing that we do.
I'm excited to get into it. It's a
Yeah,
great
man.
start. Again, you're right. I don't see this a lot. You guys are a bit of a unicorn there, which is exciting to get
Sure.
to kind of pick your brain a little bit on this.
Yeah.
Um, the other piece I wanted to start with too, since you've been in this now for a while, is tell me how the world of the Amazon return and the world of the reverse logistics has changed over the past 5 or so years. Like, what has Amazon been doing that's been updating it, that's given way for a company like yours to really succeed the way it has?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know one is disposal costs. They've implemented like their grade and resell program, and I got to go to Accelerate last year. It was my first time,
Mhm.
and I got to sit at some roundtable discussions with Amazon directly and ask questions as a service provider and not just a seller, where it's clear it might not seem like it. I think to sellers specifically, as a consumer, it's great. I buy on Amazon, I return something, I get my money back, right? They're king. I always know it's going to be okay for me as a consumer, but as a business, your recourse and options can be somewhat limited. Now they've offered different, like they update settings so you can choose how your returns are handled in Amazon. It could skip Amazon totally and just come back to a return address.
Mhm.
They offer the grade and resell program where they will grade and then resell what's categorized unsellable inventory in Amazon and then create used listings based on the grading, based on the grading criteria. You've got the refurb. So there are options. And I think recently today now, a big one for us is disposal is now the same cost the cost to dispose of an item is exactly the same cost as it is to remove an item from Amazon. Disposal used to be cheaper,
Yeah.
right? As a seller, cool, it's cheap, I'll just dispose. Depending on the average selling price, it might make sense to dispose. But now it's the same to remove. So why not remove that inventory simply to offset those costs, right? And as a brand, when you choose disposal on Amazon, it's clear in their terms, they can destroy, recycle, or resell your inventory. You waive all rights to that.
Right.
So they're just going to keep the proceeds anyways if they're able to resell it. Why not try to liquidate on the back end, if not through Amazon, to offset some of those costs because they are the same, or they were a few weeks ago, cent for cent. So there's some incentive there. The grade in resell, I think we talk about bad reviews, could just tank a listing essentially. The grade in resell, they don't necessarily know what a brand's new item might look like
Right.
how what pieces, what components are in this set. So when they receive the inventory to grade it, if they don't know if it's complex or there's multiple pieces or inserts or it's been used and then reintegrated back to a sellable status that's resold again, right? A customer gets it, it's been used or switched out or missing pieces, the brand takes a hit, and so they get the bad review, not Amazon. And that's, I'm not pointing fingers. It's just my experience in the conversations that I've had, and
Right.
especially with the reimbursements, they've shortened that window from I think 18 months to like 60 days now. So if
Yeah.
you don't have, it's it's quick, man. You got
Yeah.
it. So you gotta have a process in place, and you can. It's very easy to do, at least for the claims that we file to do that, and the pictures you have to take, file the case, and upload. So um, prior to that, recently now, I think there's a lot of incentive to have a solution on the back end.
It's so interesting they made the remove and dispose process the same price. What why wouldn't you're right, why would you let them dispose of it?
Yeah.
Unless it's, of course, like, maybe like a 2-cent thing, it's gonna cost you more to ship it back than to even do it, but even then, I mean, is there a
Yeah.
reason to ever dispose? It sounds like
I'm
anymore?
I'm open to I'm open to that conversation where someone could say, I want to pay Amazon to dispose of instead of remove it. Now, like depending on the inventory, perhaps it's hazardous and you don't have a facility
True.
to then dispose of it. But if you're removing it from Amazon to offset, um, to offset those costs, also from a brand control standpoint, I don't advocate disposal, but because everything is serialized or manifested with us, we will also dispose for brands. It's full chain of custody. Right now, they know where this inventory has gone, where it was disposed of, when it was disposed. I put my signature on it and say this is when and where essentially we threw the inventory away. Right.
Okay.
And so, from a brand's perspective, even to have transparency and control over where the inventory is being disposed of, and curating a positive consumer experience, right? They might not want it to end up in an unauthorized reseller's hand or somewhere it's not
Mhm.
supposed to. So, yeah, cent for cent the same. Uh, there situationally might be some circumstances where it makes sense to have Amazon just dispose of it, but you've got your returnless resolution program was another one that I maybe missed on the front end. You can allow the customer to keep the item. If it's a $10 item, you need to pay to have the item returned and then gone through Amazon. More than likely, um, is an option as well to mitigate some of those costs. You can update, like, manage your source costs in Amazon, so you're making sure you're getting, like, your full reimbursed value on those items. Because if you don't provide one, Amazon gives an estimate, and
Mhm.
sometimes that estimate is lower than the value or the source cost, the cost of the item. So there are things you can do right now without using a reverse logistics provider to capitalize on that, and it starts with just knowledge, just knowing that this stuff is out there.
I was gonna say this is all fascinating because, again, as someone that is very feels very involved in the Amazon world, I feel like I'm missing some of these pieces here. So this is great. You're filling in the gaps. My knowledge is great.
Cool.
I've seen it where I've definitely returned some stuff where they said the seller was like, I don't even send it back to me. Just keep it. It's not worth it. So that makes sense. I've also seen it. This is more of not really a prank video, but the guy ordered a bag of concrete on Amazon, filled it with sand, and used the concrete, filled the empty bag with sand weighing the same amount, and sent it back. That's also hopefully not
Crazy.
something you deal with on a day-to-day basis, but that made me think of that somehow was he got a bag of sand back, and they said, "Oh, Amazon is paying for it," but Uh, in any case, yeah, it's interesting to think about how many hidden costs that maybe a lot of
Yes.
sellers are not involved with on the day to day, but are hurting the business. Is there anything else that we haven't discussed yet that we need to talk about on this return side of things, or even more to that effect? How does a poorly managed return process really eat away at a seller's profitability?
Sure. So I think eating away at profitability is when brands or sellers are trying to do things themselves.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know how to sell on Amazon, right? There are a lot of people who are really, really successful, right? I just stay in my lane, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is not trying to wear too many hats or do too many things at once. What does that look like? For everyone, it's different. Sometimes maybe liquidate through Amazon
Hmm.
for the return side of things. Maybe send it to a provider who's just going to consign it and sell it for you. Is liquidation directly through Amazon a choice? Should you just be is disposal the best because you don't have a place for it to go? You can't
Right.
find anyone to do it. Okay, what data is driving that decision? What proof do you have? And if you have a 5%, 10%, 20% return rate, and I've talked to brands, accelerators, that type of model, who are doing several $100 million a year in revenue or north of that, who just choose disposal, where it's somewhat customary in the company and has been for a period of time to just throw it away. Okay, if your return rate's 20%, you're baking this into your landed cost of goods. You're not looking for any feedback. Maybe you're having defective or bad product batch runs. Are you getting any feedback there to stop that? What if you cut that return rate in half? What if you can reintegrate? So I reintegrate across the board categorically close to 50% of what Amazon says is unsellable back as new inventory, which is
Wow.
considerable, right?
Yeah.
Categorically up and down from there, depending. Like HBA is a little lower, 30 to 40%. Shoes and apparel are great, for example, but like, what are you doing? Is that an area to improve? You all look at all these different metrics and softwares and agencies to do all these
Right.
things. Well, shoot, if your return rate's 10%, what if we cut that in half? That's significant. If you're doing a million, 10 million, 100 million a year in revenue, that can be very significant and get a whole bunch of data across the board to improve, like I said, production, manufacturing, packaging. What's the relationship look like with your fulfillment center? Are there areas
Hmm.
for improvement there? Often the solution is very, very simple, but you just got to take a look at it. And is it
Right.
always worth you as a seller doing it yourself? I don't know.
Right.
I'm happy to have a discussion about it. Feel free, anyone listening.
Yeah.
Like I'm a resource. Very much we're a resource.
Right.
But there are definitely things that can be done, and are you letting data drive the decision-making processes for your business? Because, man, P, I'll tell you, I was talking about this the other day with someone. I might pull it up in my email to see how many times a CEO or COO has said, "Our ops guy feels like we're doing the right thing. He feels like it. He's got a gut feeling." They
It-
it's insane. It really
yeah.
is. But that's just a normal place in the returns world, and it's very common where there is no solution in play.
Right. And it seems silly because it feels like return data could be almost like a gold mine of feedback,
Yeah.
of ways to improve. What are ways that it sounds like, again, a lot of these companies are doing it based off feeling. What are ways that you guys translate that data and translate that information into actionable actions or
Yeah.
actionable, what am I trying to say? Like, how do you translate the data into cutting the return rate in half and cutting and making you more profitable?
Yeah, actually, the implement it's cool saying it, but the implementation and execution are two different things,
Ooh,
right? Oftentimes it is very simple. So, two examples. One, we just did a pilot with a Halloween costume company. And if you ever bought a costume for Halloween, you know how they come. It's in the clear packaging with a cardboard insert and a picture of the costume and then the costume itself, right? Um, what were happening, customers are buying the costumes, maybe wearing it, maybe not, but then they return the costume and it doesn't have the insert, right? With the description of the costume, maybe pieces in the costume, maybe how to put the costume on, whatever it is, it's coming back missing pieces or components. Well, when you file these claims that we file in Seller Central,
Mhm.
you have to take pictures of the product, the pieces, the shipping label, LPN, packing slip, upload it, right? And if it comes back missing pieces or components, it's an eligible claim to file. But what happens is on the listing page, on the display page of the listing, if there are no pictures of all of the pieces or components, they will deny the claim. So how would
Whoa.
you know, um, why you're being denied? This is just a whole nother claim you can file. So we're able to add or suggest that images be added to the listing. Now images are there. We can now file these types of claims where they're missing pieces or components, and be successful on them where previously we weren't. Right. And I'm talking about 10% of the items I receive, I can file a claim on. My claims that I have to take pictures of. So on that alone, some partners use us just to file those claims, right? To take pictures. That's a revenue
Right.
driver right there. If you're paying to dispose, just like you're paying to remove, why not just remove it, get full value of 10% of the returns, depending on the volume? Does that make sense? What's the selling price of the item? If it's $100, $200, can be fairly significant. And then, very easy one. It so sometimes when you buy products, they'll have a tamper-proof seal on the
Mhm.
top, right? You gotta cut it to then open the box. Sometimes it's around all sides. What I find is oftentimes it's usually just on one,
Right.
but it should be anywhere there's an opening, right? Because what customers will do, like your concrete sand example, they'll open the bottom if there's no seal there, take the product out, use it, maybe switch it out, put it back in the box and return it.
Right.
Amazon gets it. The seal is still in place. It's new.
Right.
Right? It gets kicked back into
Right.
sellable,
Seal's
someone else
not
buys it.
tampered. Ugh.
It's not
Sneaky.
it's not tampered, yeah, so just put the seals on all sides.
Yeah.
It's a solutions are oftentimes very, very simple, and little things like that, again, translate on the front end in terms of profitability and driving revenue.
Right. And this probably wouldn't be something that a newer or a less experienced seller would think of. Um, Aside from, of course, like I said, this topic feels like it goes under the radar in general. So for it to get that deep into the weeds, it feels like that wouldn't happen for a new seller. So this is good for them to hopefully to hear, and to know in general, what is out there and what the return process is like. Are there any other examples you can give me on? I love the real world examples,
Yeah.
of how to better enhance the packaging to minimize returns or push may not minimize returns isn't the right word, but maybe it is, and also on this sealable example, to push a request through for a reimbursement from Amazon.
Yeah, so I always suggest, well, one, just make sure all the pieces or components are available on the listing, whatever the product has, which of course, like a return happens before an item is ever purchased,
Right.
and if you get an item, you buy an item from Amazon and it comes up and the box is all damaged and dinged, just return it. I'll
Yeah.
get a new one, right? I don't know
Right.
if it's new or used, if this is how it's supposed to look. I don't know. So brands that are not Amazon native
Mhm.
and sell a lot brick and mortar, I'll see this maybe, as an example where the product just shows up. The product might be new, but the boxes are all blemished. There's just no consulting being done in the front end. Like this has to be repurposed for Amazon, right? Amazon
Mhm.
is a different animal in a lot of respects. So, making sure all like pictures of pieces or components are there, and really inserts. I love the inserts with pictures, of the product,
Mhm.
instructions. Like in the soft line world, for example, in the linens, sometimes they'll have the picture of the product on the actual poly bag itself,
Mhm.
or maybe it's sewn onto one of the sheets or just a little piece of fabric in there. Put an insert, something that can be replaceable, because when these items get opened or received by a customer, maybe they take the item, um, they take it out a little bit or move it around, put it back in. If you have the ability to put in a new insert, for example, right? Amazon's not slapping their labels over top of it, whatever shipping provider's not putting their labels over top of it. You have the ability at least to put in new informational, graphics or whatever it might be about that item itself. So I always like the inserts. The tamper proofs are very easy. If you don't know what your items are looking like on the back end, get some removed to you. You'll find out very quickly if the information you're receiving from the customer in the return reports is accurate or not.
Right.
So it just starts with laying eyes on the product. That's the first thing.
And again, it's just fascinating, this side of things.
Yeah.
Um, well, a question I always like to throw into the mix is where do you see the future of this going? We talked about what has changed over the last couple of years, but where do you see the evolution of the return process going? Not maybe just specifically for Amazon, but also just for e-commerce in general, um, in the next couple
I,
of years.
it's just becoming more accepted. I think I haven't been in here for a long time, but there are people that I speak to who have been around for decades, right? In this industry, and it's just been like the stepchild, you could say, but just kind of in the back corner, right? Like not worried about it. We're not considering it, but more and more proof is coming out, data to back this can actually be a lever and a tool that's useful. I'm not saying always, but certainly there is an opportunity to integrate this to an existing business and use it as a revenue or data driver, right? To accomplish different things that you might want to accomplish.
Hmm.
It's becoming more commonplace, even at like events now. I just went to one in January. The NRF, the
Hmm.
Rev is now, a part of that. I think so. It's just becoming more commonplace, and it's easier to have conversations. And it's not just received as like, oh yeah, we'll just throw your stuff on a pallet and liquidate it. There's a whole bunch more that can be done. You just need to find a partner that'll do it with you, or set something up internally. You get the products at the end of their life cycle. They hold a lot of value there in terms of what you could learn from that, and truly curating a positive consumer experience and establishing that within a brand. I think, right, and I hear operators talk about it. Maybe not just brand over everything,
Hmm.
right? And so, like, how can we do that together to
Yeah.
improve the current situation? That's it. And yeah, man, like sometimes that just means we don't work together anymore, right? Like you get the data, and now you're able to go
Right.
and
You
what you
handle
were
it in
doing was
house.
working.
Yeah.
Cool. But like now at
Right.
least now that's a proven
Hmm.
decision. So
That's great.
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited. I don't feel the water getting cold at all.
So hopefully you started a nice little trend here. You're just to the
We'll
front of
see.
the wave. That would be
We'll
great.
see, man.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be great.
Yeah.
No, it's like I said, I love these episodes where I can talk about with someone who knows a lot about a topic that I have very little knowledge of.
Thank you.
Again, I learned a lot today, so I really appreciate you being a guest and you doing this. We'll definitely have
Absolutely.
to have you on for more discussions. I'd love to get you on maybe around Prime Day, talk about the high rate of returns and holiday
Yep.
season stuff and all that kind of good things. So, no, I really appreciate you doing an episode with us. I know we are working together a little bit now, which is very exciting. I have
Absolutely.
to feel legally, I have to mention that you're the partner of Velocity. So it's very exciting to get this to all of our partners and to get them a little bit more knowledgeable, like me now, a little more knowledgeable about the return process and maybe where they could do a little bit better on that end.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
I'm grateful to be here, man. Anytime. Prime Day. Q4 is big too,
Of
so I'm
course.
grateful to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have an ongoing, segment on just on returns and stuff like that with you, so have to
Let's
keep it
do it,
going.
man.
Sweet.
Yeah, cool.
JD, I appreciate you joining. I will have your LinkedIn as well as your website's homepage down below, so if you're looking for some return help, looking to understand your return data a little bit better, check it out, and we'll go from there.
Thanks, man.
Sweet.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all for watching. I'm your host, Velocity Pete, and we will see you next week.